When this started, I confess I did not understand. I guess maybe that's how it all turned out to be. Well, such a mess.
If you're new here, welcome. I'm Betsy Burris, a teacher, educator, and psycho coach. Every week, I podcast or write on Substack about using your emotions to feel better and teach better. Sometimes you'll hear stories of educators as told to me or sent into the Teaching Through Emotions hotline, all of them discussed with me and my co-host, Joe Johnson. And sometimes you'll hear an interview with someone who offers an interesting perspective on teaching and learning. We unpack it all here on the feed and on Substack. I'm so glad you're here. Hello, listeners. Today, you are in for a true treat because we've got a great teaching story for you told by a professional storyteller. Professional, I mean, really, someone who actually coaches storytelling. So my friend Hari Kumar is a storytelling coach and founder of Convivo, which is an organization that helps people and organizations develop effective communication skills. And Hari, of all people, is perfect to do this because, as you will hear, he has great communication skills. Hari is also a teacher and is, as he puts it in his website, passionate about creating transformative and joyful learning experiences, which is like, Hari, you had me at passionate, but that is exactly what TTE is also about. So I'm super excited to be talking to you today as a kindred spirit and talking with you and Joe, another kindred spirit, so we can unpack this amazing story that you have to tell, which you told me in an email. So let me just begin by saying, hi, Joe. Hi, Hari.
Hi, Betsy. Hi, Hari.
Hi, Betsy. Hi, Joe. Wonderful to meet both of you. And thank you so much for having me on. I've been following Teaching Through Emotions and certainly really appreciate the angle you take, the lens you take on how important emotions are in this very emotional thing we do, which is teaching.
Yeah, exactly.
Very much.
So that's actually how we got together on this, is that, Hari, you sent me an email with your story, beautifully told in the email, in response to one of my blog posts, I think.
That's right. I think the provocative title was, if you don't love your students, maybe you shouldn't be in teaching. And I was
That's right. That's right.
Oh my God, that is convicting.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Right?
Wow.
Oh my God. I was actually really nervous about that one. I don't know why I thought of that. I guess I was on the street looking and watching some teenagers and being like, oh my God, I'm so curious about them. But I was really scared to publish that one because I thought people are just going to like eviscerate me. But I'm so glad I got your response because you got it completely. And so we're going to be following up on that blog post. Yeah, let's get started and see what your story is, Hari.
All right, wonderful. Well, Betsy, when I read your wonderful newsletter, if you don't love your students, why are you in teaching in the first place? It brought me right back to a key moment in my teaching career where I actually was actively hating my students. And I thought to myself, man, if I had gotten this article in that semester, wow, it would have whacked me upside the head. But I want to take us to that moment, which I'm hoping is actually a moment that many, many listeners might actually have found themselves in. Maybe many people are in that moment right now. So this was my third year in my teaching career. I was a grad student at UMass Amherst, and this was the spring semester of my third year teaching there. And I was teaching a writing class, and it was a required first-year writing class. It was my second year teaching this required writing class, and we were just not having a good time. Myself, my students, all around.
I've had writing classes like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was a cold spring in New England anyway, so we were all it was all just dreary. But this is a required first-year writing class. None of the students want to take this required first-year writing class. I was one of maybe 40 or 50 grad students who are assigned to teach these sections of writing.
Wow.
So for many of my fellow graduate instructors, this was also like, it's just a job. We're just trying to grade these student papers so that we can get to our actual work, the research we wanted to do, the classes we really wanted to teach. Yeah. So the syllabus was set in stone. It was not a syllabus that we had crafted. The readings were given to us and given to the students. So all of us were just kind of going through the motions, right? But that semester...
Yeah, that's strike two, Joe.
Yeah.
Right. Strike one is the weather. Strike two is the terrible situation that you had to just do it without any ownership.
On both ends. The students are going through the motions and you're going through the motions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And as you both have pointed out in many of your episodes, but also Betsy, I know that this is something that you've drilled into in some of your articles. A lot of times we as teachers and students too find ourselves in socio-material conditions that are absolutely inhumane and
Yeah.
dehumanizing
Yes.
and bring out the worst in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I thought I was actually a pretty smart analyzer of these socio-political phenomena. My graduate program was in politics and cultural studies and so on. But even then, I'm finding myself in that semester actively just distrusting my students. I would assign readings and fully expect the students would show up not having done the readings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would deliberately craft discussions to kind of tease out some of the more complex things in the readings just to see who had really done the readings, who hadn't. And as soon as I found, like, we would go around the room and I would ask everybody to answer like a complicated question, a curveball. And as soon as I would find like one student who was trying to BS their way through the answer, it was so clear they hadn't done the reading, I would call them out, but I would do it in a very sarcastic way and make fun of them very sarcastically.
Yeah.
And I would pass it off as saying like, look, I'm really sarcastic. That's because I'm a masshole. I would say like, I'm from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
That's how we do here. You're
Right.
at UMass Amherst, get used to it, that kind of thing. But it really was this kind of like, I was actively not trusting them.
Yeah.
And when I would create assignments or exercises for them, be like, oh, here's a fun little exercise that I can do in class. And I would immediately think, but there's going to be these 12, 15 students, 2/3 of them are just going to look at me blankly and not answer. Another third of them are going to be on their phones.
Oh, man. There's strike 3. There it is.
Yeah. So that was that moment, that semester. Every class, I feel like I'm just slogging through and actively looking out for those students who didn't do the work, those lazy sons of...
Yep.
Anyway, end of the semester comes around. Everything goes okay. Students hand in their work. I grade. And over the summer, I get my teaching evaluations. And I start reading through them. And here's, once again, like, teaching evaluations are one of the worst things in the world of teaching. They're so
bad.
corporate. Yeah, they're so bad.
In the world, period. You don't even have to say of teaching.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Terrible, terrible thing. Because they don't evaluate teaching in the first place. Students shouldn't be evaluating. Anyway, there's a whole other,
They should be evaluating their learning.
Yes, exactly
They
right.
should not be evaluating teaching. They don't have any criteria by which to do so.
That's right.
Except for just subjective, did I like you? Which I just want to say, by the way, this is why student evaluations and sometimes promotion decisions in the academy depend on popularity, because that's what student evaluations actually measure.
Yeah. At the time this story is happening, this was at least 3-4 years before I did a whole deep dive on student evaluations.
Oh.
I worked at Amherst College and redesigned their approach to teaching evaluations.
Ooh,
really?
Another good podcast episode.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole bunch of literature out there. But in that moment, though, I'm sitting there that summer, having just gone through the semester of just like dreary, depressed, despair, hatred for my students. And I'm reading through the evaluations and I'm like, these evaluations are crap. Of course, they didn't like me, whatever. But then this one comment stood out. And this comment was from a student. Of course, these evaluations are anonymous, but I could pick out through the context cues.
Yeah.
Of course. Students, hear this. We can tell who you are.
We can, yeah. And this particular student was actually one of the good students in the class. And he said, I'm pretty sure I know who this is. He said, hey, one of the things I appreciated in your class was your sarcastic sense of humor. As a masshole myself, I appreciated your sarcasm. But there were times where I wasn't sure whether you were being humorous or whether you're being cruel.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sarcasm is such an edged type of comedy, it is almost by definition mockery, and it's hard to mock someone kindly.
Yeah.
And especially when the target of mockery are students.
Yeah.
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 And there's a power dynamic
when
in the
it's
class.
us against them or you against them.
Yeah.
Which it was.
It was. It totally was. Right. And so as much as I hate student evaluations, I have to say that was one of the comments that I found so transformative and so insightful for my teaching, because it really was like a punch into my heart.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't want to be cruel. So what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Why did I get into teaching in the first place? Just to be cruel to my students? Some folks do, right?
Well, I just looked up sarcasm. Here's a definition that I have on my phone. The use of irony to mock or convey contempt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you're being sarcastic about, a third thing that you and your students could join on, that's one thing. But to be expressing sarcasm towards your students.
Yeah. Yeah.
Picking up on the contempt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I ask, Hari, what would you have done differently?
Yeah.
Well, let's get specific. What were the conditions? Because you taught other classes. You hadn't experienced this before, right?
No, so what happened is that it made me go back and think about, how did I get there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why was this semester like this, or was this a pattern? Right?
Yes.
Could I dismiss this as like, oh, that was just one semester. Oh, I was just having an off semester. Oh, there were other things going on in my life.
Or it's just a bad class.
It was just a bad class, right? No, but it turns out I'd gotten into teaching about 3 years before that. I had left a career in engineering to go back to grad school because I wanted to teach, because I loved teaching so much. And so when I went back to grad school, the first class that I taught was also a required class. It was in the communication department. It was a public speaking class. So also a class where the syllabus was set in stone, but it was a class I thoroughly enjoyed teaching. And my approach to teaching, and one of the big inspirations for me to get into teaching, was Bell Hook's book, Teaching to Transgress.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And her follow-up book, Teaching Community, was even better. But Teaching to Transgress was one of the foundations for me. And so when I started teaching at grad school, when I started teaching public speaking, I was also reading Paulo Freire, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and really coming into it of like, hey, look, you students, me teacher, let's break down that power dynamic, power wall. We're all going to be learning together. I'm really curious. That was one of the things you mentioned, Betsy, in your newsletter, curiosity being such a powerful motivation for teaching. It's like, hey, look, I'm really curious as to why are you taking this class, even if it's required.
Yeah.
What do you want to get out of this class? Why is public speaking an important thing for you, and things like that? Really getting to know my students, but then also turning over the class to my students and saying, let's co-create this learning experience together. Let's collaborate on this. Yeah, sure, the syllabus says here are the required readings. But what are we doing required readings in a public speaking class? Let's speak, let's do this, and kind of really coming alongside, which I think is a really, really common motivation for a lot of people who get into teaching, really wanting to collaborate with their students. So the first year went great. The students were surprised that an instructor was actually like asking them for their opinions. By the second year, the word got out that I was this really fun professor. I was a graduate instructor for students at UMass. Most of their instructors are graduate instructors, so that I'm a professor for them. And so the second year of teaching, I ended up having this one class that was full of mostly seniors taking this class as an elective and deciding to just have an absolute blast in the class.
And this was the second year, not the third?
This is my second year of teaching, right? And they're like, oh, this guy is a cool guy. He's a cool professor. He's not going to assign any reading, so there's not much work. All you got to do is show up and talk. That's all it is.
Fun gut.
It's a fun class. It's an easy A.
Yeah.
And that semester was a rude awakening for me.
Wow.
There was a certain set of students who just took over the class completely and proceeded to be utterly vulgar and bullied other students in the class.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I had to really become a harsh disciplinarian just to protect some of the other students in the class, for one thing.
How big are these classes, by the way?
This particular public speaking class that got out of hand for me was about 25 students.
Okay.
Right. 25 students, mostly seniors. So this was spring. They were all in kind of like a senioritis type thing.
Yeah.
Or at least the seniors were. So after that semester, I had this sort of backlash reaction in my teaching. I just went completely the opposite way.
Right.
It's like, oh no, it's the classic once bitten, twice shy type thing.
Right.
It's like, there are going to be students who will take advantage of that kind of very loosey-goosey approach. And so, but rather than actually think through that approach carefully and talk to other experienced professors in the teaching community. Like, I ignored what Bell Hooks says in teaching community of like, you got to find that community of teachers. I just went with my very, I think, looking back, maybe understandable human reaction of like, oh, I'm not going to ever let myself get taken advantage of, quote unquote, that way.
Yeah.
And by this time, I was now teaching this writing class, and I became this complete authoritarian, by the rules. The syllabus says we're doing this, you better do this.
Yeah.
Because the syllabus was the only legal document that I could rely on to correct for any kind of student misbehavior in the class. Right?
And that was a document that you designed as opposed to the class?
No, the syllabus was, again, I was teaching a required writing class. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And this was the first time you taught writing?
That was the first time I
others were
taught
public
writing.
speaking.
The others were public speaking, yeah.
All right.
Right.
I was thinking that the reaction to we're going to be all syllabus now, that is for the writing course.
That was for the writing class.
In reaction to what happened in the second year of the public speaking course.
Yeah, because even in the public speaking class, I had communicated to the students my disrespect for the institution, the syllabus, like, hey, we're in this together, aren't we?
Yeah.
We both know this is a piece of bullshit, Like, come on, what do you really want to do in this class? Let's do that. Let's make this class about what you really want to learn.
Now we're bros.
Stick it to the man.
Yeah. It was a needed corrective. Like, sure, the intent is coming from a good place, but the effect is not taking into account all the various situations that students come to classes, and my own positionality as a dude bro who's like saying, hey, right. Yeah.
Right. And in a writing course, a mandatory writing course of which I've taught many.
Yeah.
You're right. These students don't want to be there. It's not an elective. They didn't get to choose it, whether they wanted to learn public speaking or whether they just wanted to hang out with a professor bro. That this is required. That's a whole different dynamic than you had experienced before. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So can you talk about that a little bit? What was that like for you to realize these kids don't want to be here? I don't want to be here with them. How did you manage that?
Yeah. So speaking of teaching through emotions, that was an emotion of, oh, nobody wants to be in this class.
Right. Right.
So no intrinsic motivation. And the extrinsic motivation is not even really that compelling.
Yeah. See, in other words, you were screwed.
Yeah, exactly.
They were too.
I'm here to sell you a bag of shit.
Exactly. I can't even tell you it's flavored. It's just not.
Yeah. So the emotion, how it felt was, completely enervating.
Yeah.
Hard to work up the energy to show up to class to begin with. And then in class, that feeling sometimes you get when you go into a class, you might have even prepared the lesson plan, but for some reason you're just flat that day. And you walk into class and you sit around and you're like, oh man, I'm just not feeling it today. It's that feeling multiplied
every
by
day.
10. Every day.
Right.
My God.
Oh, just going through the motions.
Oh,
Just
that
going
is
through the
hell.
motions.
I'm thinking of classes of my own from back in the day. It's a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
It is classic disconnect. The inability to walk into a room and feel not even wanting to connect with students because you don't believe that they're there for you to connect with. Everyone's out of body.
Everybody's out of
It's like
body.
this big old out-of-body experience. It's like hell for everybody.
Yeah.
And yet you're the teacher with the pressure. I remember feeling like, I still somehow have to get these kids to write and improve their writing and learn, stupid things like how to use evidence in a way that actually supports your argument. I'd have students who would pull quotes from the internet that didn't support their argument.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. This actually contradicts what you're trying to prove here, babe.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And this was happening, this would have been 2010, 2011. I'm so thankful that I had this experience before our current hellscape of AI.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Right?
Can you imagine?
But honestly, if I had experienced this while AI was in the picture, I would have probably just given up. I'd have been like, whatever. I don't care. Go ahead. Use AI. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because to your point, Betsy, I would have had to care that my students learned something in my class in order for me to even give a damn.
Exactly.
Right.
And at that point, I wasn't caring for that at all. So even the assignments that I was grading, my grading wasn't like oriented toward giving them feedback. It was just to say, you stupid idiot didn't get the assignment.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, when some of my students would actually ask me ahead of time, like, hey, professor, this assignment is asking us to write a persuasive essay. Can I write about this topic? What about this? Students who genuinely were curious, right, would come to office hours. My response would be like, I don't care. Read the prompt.
Yeah.
Even students who were expressing interest.
Even students who were expressing interest.
So you were really far gone, Hari.
I was far gone.
Because I know
gone.
you. I know how loving you are.
Right.
And the fact that even a kid who's interested and wanting to do the right thing by themselves, at least, you had no interest in their willingness. Wow.
Yeah. So when I say this is a moment in my teaching career, it was a low point. I actually actively hated my students to the extent that even students who were expressing interest, I distrusted their motives.
Yeah.
I thought they were trying to suck up to me. I thought they were trying to perform a good student. Yeah.
Right.
I was far gone.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
So, which brings me to that summer. Sorry, Joe, you were about to say.
No, I'm just thinking about the nature of a writing class where it's a skill that is very difficult to teach. A lot of people write really well, but they really couldn't tell you why. They've read a lot. Because they've read a lot, they can imitate this voice. And others that don't write well, that's a very difficult thing to instill. It's almost like trying to teach somebody how to draw.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to communicate how one draws something well. You want to just say, well, dumbass, make it look like the thing you're looking at.
Yeah.
Except that with drawing, you can tell if you're not making it look like the thing you're looking at. In writing, what is the standard? It's so subjective.
Yeah.
It's not like you're writing something that there's a standard for.
Right.
It's even worse than teaching someone to draw.
Yeah.
It's like, well, damn it, idiot, make it make sense. Can't you see
What's
this
wrong with
doesn't
you?
make sense?
Yeah.
Did you read that quote that you put in your paper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so crazy. Not only is it difficult to teach, not only is it difficult to motivate, but teach kids to be creative and assiduous thinkers and critics of text, but to actually want to create text that, Joe, I think part of it is also aesthetics, having them feel like they want to hear their own words and that there's a certain sound to that they want to read their own writing.
Yeah.
It's just really difficult to teach, especially to people who don't want to learn it. But then the next thing is you have to read their papers. And when I was teaching at Chico, we had to read their papers 4 times because we encouraged them to rewrite their papers like 4 times. And it was a portfolio system. So at the end of the semester, I'd have like a 14-foot pile of portfolios.
Yeah.
And I had to read those papers again. And they're not even better.
Yeah.
And of course, I feel like a terrible teacher because oh my God, Hari, I'm so with you on this. And obviously it's hard for me to think straight because I'm reliving hell.
Right. Hopefully for a lot of people listening right now, they'll be like, been there.
Right?
Now what? How do you get out of this?
Exactly.
So maybe we move the story to what comes next.
Go.
And I've got a fun couple of stories for you. I'll come back to this in a second, but cat shit versus bullshit is the story that's coming up.
That's the name of the story. That's the title. In fact, that's probably going to be the title of this episode.
Actually, there's a metaphor there, but we'll get to that in a second. So that summer, I'm sitting there looking at that, and that comment in the evaluation really made me dig deep and think about like, wait, the student is right. Is writing a comment in a student evaluation one of the most soulless instruments that we've created? But there's
soul there. Yeah.
There's soul there. He's taking a risk by putting something in there.
Very kind.
The student's trying to give me the benefit of the doubt. Like sometimes I'm not sure whether you're being humorous or cruel. But what the student is not realizing is my intentions were absolutely to be cruel.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to sit back and like, all right, so why did I get into teaching in the first place?
Yeah.
So I went back and reread Bell Hooks' Teaching to Transgress and thought to myself, is this why I left a career in engineering for?
Yeah.
And the first thing that came to my mind was, why am I not loving my students? And so that whole summer, the other thing I did, which I should have done before, is took to heart what Bell Hooks says in teaching community, is I reached out to fellow grad instructors. I reached out to professors. I spent the summer like talking through teaching with other people. And coming out of that summer, I mean, as grad students, we were all writing teaching philosophies at this point.
Yep.
And I'd had like a classic grad student 2-page teaching philosophy with all these like name dropped, references and all that.
A conceptual framework.
Yeah.
What were you officially in grad school for, by the way?
This is the irony of it. I was in grad school. I was getting a master's in communication. I have a master's in engineering, and my first career was in engineering. And I left engineering to go study communication and to teach communication.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I had just gotten my master's in communication, but I was in the doctoral program in the English department in rhetoric and composition, which is on the art of teaching writing, the art and science of teaching writing. And so in a second, I'm going to credit the good folks of the UMass writing program. It is one of the top ranked writing programs in the country.
Wow.
And some of my mentors there really helped me dig out of this quandary I found myself in. So coming out of that summer, I reformulated my teaching philosophy around just 4 words. And those are love, joy, faith, and hope. I wrote like a short little paragraph for each one of those for my own understanding. But the first one of those was love. And it boiled down to what you said so succinctly in your headline. If I don't love my students, I shouldn't be teaching. And for me, the definition of love was more than just that surface level, like you said, oh, they're cute teenagers. It was more like, no, to love somebody means to really care about what they want to get out of life or where they're going, and to understand why that's important to them. Much later on, I'll think about it in terms of storytelling, in terms of how in a story, a main character is driven by some motivating tension. And if you want to be a supporting character in somebody's story, you have to first listen to their story. You have to first understand their story.
Yeah.
And before you can figure out what kind of supporting character can you be in their story. But this is before that. So for me, love was really about, I've got to get to know my students and love them for who they are, but more importantly, who they want to be. The second part was joy. I've got to find a way to really find joy in the learning process. And for me, that meant also making it a process that the students can find a lot of joy in. And for me, that meant very crucially, not just like frivolous entertainment, happiness, which is how my first time teaching, I had made
Bro
my public
culture,
speaking class. It was bro culture.
Yep.
Like, come on, let's have fun.
Yeah.
Like, no, let's make it clear. You can have a meaningful, joyful experience, even if it's not just happy. Some of the most joyful moments in life are ones that bring tears to your eyes.
Yeah, very true.
So it has to be meaningful. It has to be joyful. The learning process has to be joyful. And I've got to find joy in my students' learning process. So the third part of the philosophy was faith. Why? Because I have to have faith in our very human ability to make change happen in the world. And I have to have faith in my students. I have to have faith that my students are going to change the world someday. And I might not be around to see it.
And in their motivations.
Yeah, right. I would say have faith in what you can't know or can't control. I mean, you can't control them. So that implies that faith is absolutely crucial in teaching.
Exactly. Yeah.
Bridging the gap between what you know and can do and what they know and that you can't control.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I just love that was one of yours, by the way, Hari, because, we all think that faith is always religious or spiritual, when in fact, no, it's not at all. It's actually a human necessity, because otherwise, how the hell do we manage what we don't know or can't control? Every single day we wake up and exercise faith in so many ways. Yeah. So, that's great.
And I think you put it so well, like, it can't be something I can control. Then there's no faith in it. If I know the outcome.
Then I would say there's no teaching, because now you're trying to control people, as opposed to doing how you define love and joy, which is to set up conditions under which you can get to know your students and all of you can co-create experiences that bring epiphanies and surprise and joy.
Yeah.
So that means you have to let them actually exist in the classroom as people that you don't control or even know fully. And certainly they don't know what you know, but you don't know what they know.
I don't know what they know. There's a lot from me I can learn from them.
Exactly. Yeah. Faith that will happen.
Yeah. And the fourth piece provides direction to all of this, which is hope. And for me, the definition of hope I draw from isn't just like wishful thinking, but really a hope in radical revolution, radical possibilities that I might not be around to see.
Yeah.
Right. That classic Marxian understanding of we're all in a history that we didn't choose, but we are all in a project of making history. And that's a radical act of hope. I mean, today we're recording this on MLK Day.
Yeah, right? Yep. Happy MLK Day, you guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
And MLK meant something way more substantial by the idea of a dream.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to just quote that first line, I have a dream. No, listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
That dream is radical.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a revolutionary dream. So how to put into practice all of these things? Luckily, that summer, I also got to collaborate with my dear friend, Travis Grandy, who's also a fellow graduate student in the writing program. And it turns out Travis was also working through similar kinds of feelings, similar kinds of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we did is we said, look, we're all students of rhetoric in this rhetoric program. We're teaching a writing class. We've got this syllabus that's kind of handed down from heaven for us. And apparently we can't change anything of this, but can we? What can we change? What can we get away with? And we thought, we're all trained in thinking about rhetoric as a way of engaging an audience genuinely, authentically. Let's look at the syllabus itself as a rhetorical document. It is so boring. Like, we as teachers are bored reading this. Can we make this syllabus a more engaging but authentic, rhetorically persuasive document? And so we redesigned the syllabus as a brochure for students.
Oh,
Had all the important elements in it, but it was visually appealing. And we changed the sentences to be more active voice. And we used the word you to refer to the student reading it. And so right away from the very front, we were like, this is a document that's intended to communicate and connect with you as a student and bring you into this learning journey, but with you as agent in this learning journey. And so we designed this document on a 11 by 17 paper that you could fold in half, and it became like this booklet. The back side of the booklet that students could just pin up on their corkboards had the calendar for the class laid out in this beautiful multicolored timeline view with assignments that are due, but also the exercises and so on. So that was intervention number one. And doing that made us more excited and joyful.
Of course.
About
Can I just stop in for a second and say, like, what I thought was when you said, can we turn this syllabus into a document that actually conforms to the rules that we're teaching our students about? I'm like, have the students turn that document into, right? That would have been fucking fun.
Yeah.
Like, let us rip this syllabus apart, because those kids would have loved ripping the syllabus apart. I mean, I understand why you guys did it, because you needed to you absolutely needed to gird up your loins and kind of transform yourselves into people who were excited to teach this stuff. But next time, man, give them that crappy syllabus.
Yeah.
And
that's a great idea. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
We actually asked them to critique the syllabus because for most students coming into that class, it's the first time they've seen a syllabus that they just like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah. You got their attention, that's for sure.
Yeah, right away. And it was also the first time in both of our teaching careers for Travis and I that we had the experience the students actually read the syllabus cover to cover.
yeah.
They were so interested. They were so curious, like, wait, what?
Of course. Right? That's great.
And so then later in the semester, we actually asked them to critique the syllabus, and we asked them to think about, like, because the course was teaching them how to think as rhetors, as rhetoricians. And so we asked them, you're rhetoricians now, you're taking this class, take apart the syllabus. Tell us what you notice about the design. Why do you think we designed it this way? What would you have done differently? But I think, Betsy, you're absolutely right. We could have just taken it one step further and say, why don't you now design the syllabus for the next class that comes
Exactly.
in?
Exactly.
Right? So that could have been a great assignment for that.
Oh, yeah. Even if it doesn't have to be, you don't have to accept it. You don't have to say, okay, now I guess we're changing the syllabus because this class.
Oh, no, you wouldn't.
But no,
because then you'd ruin your class, right?
I know,
you have to give them the bad syllabus.
To put them through that same exercise that you had gone through would
that's
be
exactly
very cool.
Yeah.
And then you collect all these options that you can use in some ways with your students in ongoing classes, future
and give
classes.
Them credit
like, how
for
do you,
it,
Exactly. Now, what about this? What about that?
Yeah. And we can say, like, hey, next students, this is a syllabus designed by your peers.
Exactly. What do you think? Right?
Yeah.
Hey, this is Erica Halverson, host of the podcast Arts Educators Save the World. And when I'm not talking with successful artists and their mentors, I am a professor of education at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. As you know, because you're listening to this podcast, storytelling, performance, and creative writing all connect to give kids the confidence and skills they need to learn, to think, to write, and to create. Now, we know integrating the arts works for literacy, So, we teamed up with PBS Wisconsin Education to bring you Whoopin' Soccer, a free, ready-to-use collection of videos, activities, and lessons that inspire creativity and strengthen writing skills. Visit pbswisconsinaeducation.org/whoopin'soccer to explore the collection and start writing today.
You know, such a great outcome, Hari. Joe, I don't know about you, but I want to go back and talk about a few things, just so we can put some words to some of your experience. The first thing that I was thinking about was, you're alluding to it, and I don't think you're going to be at all surprised when I say your bro culture year. You know, I feel like I've written about that in my book, The Feeling of Teaching, this notion of a grad student. In fact, there's a very story in my book about a grad student who just basically is friends with the kids in his tutorial, or whatever you call it, a small class. And then when it comes time to give one of those kids a C or whatever, a grade that the kid didn't like, the kid goes after him because I thought we were friends, right? He goes out to drinks beer with them. You know, he does what a grad student does, which is manages the anxiety of being a not knower when you're trying to become a knower and you're given all this responsibility, but no real authority because you're handed a syllabus that you have no influence over and you're just supposed to do a good job. Many people manage that anxiety by just making the kids love them. Because that feels good, and I don't know how to teach anyway.
Right.
But it comes around and bites you in the ass. And so what I would say to teachers is boundaries. So this leads to a question that I wanted to ask. You kind of talk about it in terms of your philosophy, but how do you love your students with boundaries? That is, not loving them by making them your best friends, not loving them by caring about so much about them that you actually abuse them in your attempts to make them change, right? Or you're sarcastic or whatever. How do you love your students in a bounded way? And Joe, I want to hear from you too, because I know you probably love your students too, but I know you have really strong boundaries with them. How do you do that? If love is overflowing the boundaries, how do you do it so that you're healthy?
As you were asking the question, Betsy, I was thinking about, I do genuinely care about their experience and their learning and their growth. And I'd love to see it when they grow and all of that. And at the same time, a boundary has to be there. I have known a lot of teachers for whom I think the boundaries were too porous. It's like everybody, I cannot be your uncle.
Yeah.
The relationship can feel a little avuncular, but I cannot be your uncle. For both of our survival. It could be toxic for you to rely too much on some sort of approval that you're feeling from me that is coming from a place of non-academic care. And it's no good for me to feel too much toward any of the individual students. It's like you have to love the idea of the student in each student. Without crossing the line into loving that actual individual. But it's a tough balance to find. If you maintain too much emotional insulation and you're not vulnerable at all, then no joy is found.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I love it. Loving the idea of the student in that person. I feel like I have loved every client I've ever had. I can't remember my student. The people that I've been working with more recently are clients, therapy clients, but also faculty who are my students, as it were. And I do love them all, but there's no expectation in me that I'm going to solve their problems or even know about their problems. Unless I'm a therapist, in which case I have to really hold that line. I hear your problems, but we're going to co-create your power to understand your problems differently and do something about them. And that's thrilling. I think that is a form of love. I think for me, attending is a form of love. Looking at someone, listening to them, staying with them, not taking on their problems or their emotions necessarily, but absolutely feeling with them and believing in them. Love, joy, faith, hope. To me, attention is a form of love. And as a teacher, that's what I give and as a therapist and as a psycho coach, that's what I give all my people.
Right.
Yeah. For me, it's similar along those lines, Betsy and Joe. It's like the love is bounded. And for me, it comes down to that sense of responsibility, that attention. What am I responsible for? And what are you responsible for as a learner?
Exactly.
Right.
And I love that idea, what you're saying, Joe, of loving the idea of a student in them. And so for me at the time, this is 2011, 2012, one of the big debates that was going around was this idea of sort of learner-centered teaching.
Yes.
I remember like pushing back on that even with my grad school colleagues a little bit. It was like, even learner-centered teaching, this goes back to a little bit about the socioeconomic material conditions under which we live, love, and labor, is that in higher ed, now even in K through 12, there was already at the time, we were pushing back on the neoliberal transformation in education that made students out to be really entitled consumers.
Yeah.
They're literally paying for education, and we teachers were reduced to being customer service workers. And that's my big critique of teaching evaluations, that they really are just customer satisfaction.
Yep.
And a lot of students treat them like Yelp reviews. It's a gives them that consumer mindset. So my critique of learner-centered teaching was that is still centering the student as consumer. And so for me, it was like, let's make this about learning-centered teaching. So let's actually bring the students into the project as like, hey, this is your learning. The activity that we're going to be doing together, what I'm responsible for, the boundaries that I'm going to set around how much I love you is around the learning process, the learning activity.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
So let's start there. And then let's think about what are all the various factors that are at play to make you treat learning as like a commodity that you find no value in.
Yeah, right.
And so let's actually flip that around and think about what's valuable to you about your learning.
Exactly.
And so that's one of the first things I went back to doing was, and starting out that year, I did this for every class, is I would send students a pre-survey and ask them, why are you taking this class? Right? And then dig a little behind that why. You know, like, what's your previous experience with writing or with public speaking? What did you enjoy most? What do you find most challenging? And then the last question is always, so what are your expectations for yourself as a learner in this class? How do you want to push yourself? How do you want to challenge yourself?
Right.
And that is like, I'm assuming right out the gate that they're a person that's in this in order to learn. And that's the boundary I'm setting up right away.
And that assumption is actually proper.
Yeah.
Given that they're taking a class.
Right.
No need to question that assumption.
Yeah. And then that finds its way into even some of the metaphors that I use. So this is where I want to introduce the catch it bullshit story, if you're okay with that, or if we can.
Oh, I've been waiting on this one.
So this changes like how I even think about syllabi and learning. It's like, all right, so what's the learning activity? Most of the learning activity is in assignments. We expect assignments to be where students demonstrate their learning. So I would say to students like, all right, in a writing class, the assignments are all about, you have to write this essay. And for so many students, I'd say like, we approach the task of writing an essay for homework like it's bullshit. You know, we say, this is a bullshit essay. Oh, what are you working on, man? Oh my God, this bullshit essay I got to write for my professor. I'm like, you know what? I would take that. Bring me bullshit. But it turns out when most of us say we're writing a bullshit essay, what we really mean is that we're writing a cat shit essay. And what I mean by cat shit is, if anybody has cats, and especially if people are listening to this, if you think about how a cat treats cat shit, you know, a cat will go to the litter box and look around and have some privacy. And as soon as it's done with its cat shit, it's going to jump out
and run,
leave it, right? And then the poor human has to be like, oh, I've got to take out the litter box. I've got to go take this damn cat shit. And I'd say like, hey, if I've got an assignment, I've written this paper, I go into the classroom to drop off my assignment. The way I know it's a cat shit essay is when I drop it at my instructor's table and get away from it as quickly as I can. I don't want to see that essay ever again.
Yeah.
And all I want to see when the teacher sends me back is the grade at the top of the page. And that's it. That's when I know I've written a cat shit essay, when I just don't care. Right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the instructor is sitting there, like you were saying, Betsy, with a 14-foot high stack of cat shit.
Cat shit.
You know, like, oh God, I got to take the litter out. This cat shit stinks from here.
Yeah.
So I tell students like, look, cat shit is toxic.
Yeah.
There's parasites in there that will actually, that's why they say for pregnant women, like,
don't do it. Yeah.
Don't do it. Right.
Don't touch that shit.
Yeah. And like, that's what cat shit will do. If you write a cat shit essay, it will destroy whatever like child of an idea that you might have had in your mind. This parasite will get in there and kill that child before it's in, right? And it's worthless. You can't do anything with cat shit. You just have to throw it away because it's poisonous. Wow. Bullshit, on the other hand, is generative. It's awesome. You can do so much with bullshit. Bullshit can be used for manure. Bullshit can be used for fuel. if you cake bullshit up, it can be used to build stuff, right? You can fertilize stuff with bullshit.
Right?
Good ideas can come out of bullshit. So I'm like, write me a bullshit essay.
Yeah, right on. One of my favorite classes, I called them outrageous claim essays. I said, just come up with an outrageous claim. I don't care if you believe it. Yeah. You can make up your quotes. You can make up all the evidence. Just make this essay hang. And the one I remember, one of them was, I get all my news from The Daily Show. The favorite was, all women should look like Barbie.
Oh.
Right?
That's an outrageous claim.
That is an outrageous claim. And the dude, he had to support that. Like, they were interested in that assignment.
Yes.
Right?
That's the thing. I told him, like, here's how you know when you're sitting there feeling pressure for this deadline and you find yourself like, I don't care. I know my professor doesn't care. You know you're writing catch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're sitting there thinking like, I've got an idea. I'm struggling with how to put this across. I feel like I've got bullshit.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Take your best shot at it.
Yeah.
It's okay. This is the heart of process writing.
Yeah. Very
It's not
interesting.
about the polish of the product. It's about your thinking process. And so
yes, exactly.
You've got people to come alongside you on this thinking process to help you sift through that. Like, oh, that's a really good nugget there. This other thing isn't, right?
Yeah.
But embrace that very messy, sometimes stinky, aspect of the thinking process.
One of the things I love about that comparison, the bullshit versus the cat shit, is that you are digging into the same sort of thing, it seems to me, that you did by turning the syllabus into more of a brochure where you're selling this to them in a way that is like, there is value to be had here. You are not just waiting out your time and turning in things that are worth nothing to throw away. You are sharpening a tool with which later on you will be able to do more things. I don't care who you are. I don't care what industry you're in or what you're going to do. At some point, you're going to have to write an email that is going to have to convince somebody of something. Well, I'm here to show you how to do that.
Yeah.
Let's sharpen that. And we're going to do that with exercises that, no, this exercise is not going to be the one that gets you a raise or gets you approved that you really needed to get approved. No, none of these exercises are going to do that, but they are going to grow the skills that are going to do that for you. Right. And so they are bullshit and not catch it. That's just great.
I love what you're saying, Joe, too, because what I was thinking as you were talking, Hari, was, writing is a process. Thinking is a process. Yes. And for us in academe to set students up to believe that in their freshman comp courses or in any course, they're going to come out with something good. I mean, I remember when I was in college, I had to write a paper on Emil Durkheim, and I had nothing to say, and I still had to write that paper. I think I got a B on the paper. But what I got, the comment was facile. Which is very interesting because I knew nothing. Why was I expecting myself to know something? And why was my professor expecting me to know something? Why can't we teach writing as a means of either keeping track of what you're thinking as you're going through the process of figuring something out, which is kind of like what I think you mean, Hari, by bullshit.
Yeah.
Or finally putting together a well-thought idea, which is hard enough. You got a good idea. It's not bullshit. You know what you want to say. That's still really hard to organize in a way that your reader will understand. Right. It's kind of crazy to think what we're expecting students to accomplish in a semester of required freshman comp. And as is always the case with kids who act out, they are right. The students are right to say, this is bullshit in the way that I don't even want to bother with it. This is cat shit. What you're asking me to do is cat shit. It makes no sense to me. It's not helping me.
Yeah.
So it's like we are doing the radical move right now of questioning the very value of required freshman comp or any comp courses with people who don't want to do it.
And that's my very long answer to your question of like, how do I put boundaries around it? To have that distinction very clear of like, is this a boundary around something that's catch it? In which case, like, question the catch it.
Question the catch it.
Right.
Right. And did you actually ever write on an essay, this is cat shit?
I did, yeah.
You have?
But, like, it's after I said this so that it wasn't...
It wasn't cruel. They knew what you meant.
That's exactly right. It wasn't sarcasm directed at them.
Exactly.
It was like,
we
we're
know
together
what
here.
I'm talking about here, and you know I'm right.
Yeah.
And you can argue with me. Like, I could imagine saying that this is a claim. I'm making a claim. Now come back and argue with me about how wrong my claim is. Give me the evidence that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Another rhetorical exercise.
Yeah. Because at that point, I'm saying, look, I'm trusting that you actually have something that you want to challenge yourself on in your thinking process? Because you said that to me in the pre-survey in your class.
Exactly.
Right.
Which I would call, by the way, learner-centered instruction. I think the way what you described, or I call it student-centered, but I love learning-centered, but I also know that students are humans and they come in with stuff in their minds and in their bodies. And to start with that,
yes,
I encourage college faculty and other teachers to do it all the time. What do you know? What do you think is going to happen in this course? This is the title of the course. What do you think is going to happen? What do you know about this topic? Let's start there.
Let's start there. Mm-hmm. And that thing of like learner learning, I'm not hung up on that distinction, because the thing I'm curious about is, where do you want this to go? What's the challenge that you want to set for yourself? Because that's the heart of any good story, is a main character who's facing a challenge that's a little bit bigger than what they can accomplish on their own. You then kind of want to root for that character. You know, you're like, oh, you also then want to know, why is that challenge so important to them?
Yeah, right.
And so for me, the boundary I set is, then that's what I'm responsible for.
Right.
I'm your guide for this learning journey. And you said you wanted to be challenged in such and such a way because this is important to you. Well, I might give you some hard feedback, you know?
Yeah, right.
Not every supporting character is there to just support you and cheer you on.
Yeah,
right? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You said this earlier. This is what you meant. You said, what character am I going to play in their narrative?
Yeah.
And I think that is a fantastic way of thinking about teaching.
Yeah.
And if you sell it, I mean, I keep focusing on the selling aspect of this, but it feels like it's such a journey between where you started with that class that like, oh, they don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. They don't want to do this. I don't want to make them do it. This is all coming down on us from outside. You go from that to, I guess, selling the notion that this is one of the ways that this institution and that these classes are going to make you better at stuff. Who's against being good at stuff? Well, this is some stuff that really can matter to you, and bringing it home to how this will affect them positively.
Yeah.
That just, what's the word? Like, to cut something off ahead of time, that obviates a whole lot of problems down the road.
Nip it in the bud.
Yes,
nipping it in the
exactly.
bud. Yeah. And setting it and normalizing the expectation that this is going to be hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
That it's going to be
hard
challenging.
isn't bad.
Hard isn't bad. Yeah.
And you're not alone.
You're not alone. You're with a group of people. You're likely not going to get it right the first time.
Yes,
None of us
exactly.
do.
You shouldn't. I mean,
You shouldn't.
that's what writing's about. It's about a process.
So to make it safe for you to be wrong, to make it safe for you to learn through failing at something,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that's my responsibility.
Yeah,
To set the learning environment so that you feel okay admitting, yeah, that reading was hella complicated. I didn't quite get it. For you to say that openly and trust that I'm not going to then sarcastically tear you apart.
Right, exactly.
And for me to say, hey, that reading, I'm in grad school. I've read that now 3 times. I still don't quite get. You know,
exactly.
It's very unreasonable for me to expect that you would get it right off the bat the first time you see it.
What did you guys think?
Right.
What do you think about that? Here's one of the things I don't get. What do you think?
What do you think?
What did you make of this?
Yeah.
Because they might have gotten it.
Right.
We don't have to be the knowers. We teachers do not have to be the all-knowers.
That's exactly
we're
right.
not the all-knowers.
No.
It's so much more fun when we're not, I think.
And I have come to one of my sort of mantras that I keep reminding myself of when I'm teaching is that when someone does offer up an attempt at an answer and it's wrong, you have to find ways to praise that answer.
Right on.
Yes.
Right on.
The fact that they gave the answer, the fact that they put themselves out there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite tools is to sort of, to use a Betsy term, to join with them in the almostness of how correct they almost were.
Yeah.
The almostness. That's great.
It's like,
Yeah.
They do it and it's 70% right. You're like, oh, that's so close. You know, and like, they're happy because you're happy.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, later on, one of the things that it so radically informs my teaching now is something I learned after all of this happened, which is this idea of threshold concepts, this idea that there are certain things that we learn that don't fit neatly into Bloom's taxonomy, you know, don't fit neatly into any kind of content curriculum standards. These are the kinds of concepts that are really difficult, but once you get it, it changes you.
Yeah.
And it changes you so much that you forget what it was like to not know it.
Right.
Right. So, for example, Isaac Newton, the famous story, the apple hits him on the head and bang, oh, there's gravity. Like, if I ask you, when did you first learn about gravity? You might not remember, but it's hard to imagine not knowing.
Not knowing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So similarly for us as teachers, I think we often forget that we are teaching stuff that are threshold concepts that we are on the other side of.
Yes,
Right.
And our
exactly.
students are on that side, and we have forgotten what it's like to not know these things. So this thing we just talked about, right? Like writing. We know because we're grown-ass adults who have gone through some hard life stuff, right? But for an 18-year-old coming out of, 12, 13 years of standardized testing, their only exposure to writing, by the way, this is something that was heartbreaking for me. Once I did the switch and I asked students about, so many of my students would say, that they were taking this required writing class, but that the last time they wrote something for fun was creative writing in elementary school. Right. And it's starting in middle school, that was just drummed out of them. They were taught functional writing. So for students, right, to imagine that writing can be a process and that process can be messy and it can be fun, it can be joyful. They don't know that. They've not experienced that. That's a threshold concept, right? So we can't blame them, for saying, I've got to write this essay.
No. We've got to actually, I would say, gather the data.
Yeah.
If we have a class full of students who are dragging their feet on doing what we're asking them to do, which is interesting too about what your response, Hari, in your third year of teaching, it's their fault. They're making me unhappy and uncomfortable. They're making me feel ineffectual. I've had that feeling too myself. So it's this blame thing where we're offloading the feelings that we can't manage ourselves onto our students. And sarcasm is the method. That was the method.
Yeah.
And it's understandable, but you pulled your head out of your ass all by yourself. Often it requires some people putting their foot against your butt and pulling.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But you did it yourself.
Yeah. You have a taxonomy of assholes.
You got it. You got it. Working on that as we speak. Yep.
And in that moment, I wasn't just an asshole. I was an asshole.
Yeah.
I was a cruel
you were an
asshole.
Absolutely. Pure, beautiful example of an asshole. And of course, we love you for admitting it. And we all are assholes. We all are potential assholes when the conditions are right. And in that case, Hari, when you were swinging the pendulum from being a bro to being taken advantage of, like, we haven't talked about this, but how many teachers out there have had a class where some group of often athletes, but, kind of bros, like a cluster of friends, they decide that they're going to take over your class? It happens all the time. And they're terrifying, right?
Yeah.
So you had that experience. So now you're like, okay, I am overcompensating now, and I'm going to go to the other extreme. And of course, you weren't yourself, Hari. You weren't even teaching in any way you value, and started hating yourself as well as your students. But you externalized that, right? Projected whatever your self-loathing was, or your sense of inadequacy or failure onto them. It's wild how psychodynamically almost predictable that was.
Yeah.
But you didn't quit teaching. You turned it around.
And not just by myself, right? This is where I think teaching community does matter. And this is why I'm so thankful that you wrote what you did in your newsletter. And I'm hoping people who are listening to this find some teaching community.
Yep.
Hopefully through the Teaching Through Emotions community, through you. But I hope this also is helpful for people who, look, you're not alone. So reach out. Talk to
there
teachers.
are people around you who care about you and love you and love talking about this shit.
Yeah.
I love talking about teaching. Have you had a failure? I want to hear it because I love it. I love hearing you talk about yours, Hari. If you'd come to me and Joe and said, oh my God, I hate my students, we would have been like, oh, I would have been salivating. Let's jump on this. Let's figure it out. Exactly. Let's go. We'll figure it out.
That's the key, right? And by the way, it's not that I didn't have teaching community. I would go back to my grad student teaching lounge, right? After every class. And there was any number of fellow grad student instructors who would always join me in what I call the bitching and moaning, the moaning fest, right?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, oh man, the students are awful. And we would make our own jokes about those students and so on. So I think that's the big thing. It's like there's a difference between a community and a teaching community. You can find community for any kind of belief that you want to have reaffirmed.
Yes.
I hate my students. Oh, I'm with you, man. Right?
Yep. Echo chamber.
Yeah.
Right. But to find that teaching community, that's like, I hear you. let's talk about it.
Yeah, because we can
how do we
work
change
this.
Yeah.
We can work with this. That my feeling is, oh, that's excellent. The way you say, Joe, I'm like, it's not almost. It's like, oh my God, you feel miserable. Come on. We can turn this around.
Yeah.
It's a guarantee.
And you can feel so, it does seem that there is not, in an official way, the kind of infrastructure that you're building, Betsy, through this whole project of teachers who are helping each other to have the perspective on what it is that they're doing. And if not, you're expected to somehow figure this all out by yourself.
Yeah, right.
And when you're by yourself, you lose sight.
Yeah.
Especially if you're miserable.
There's an early episode of Faulty Towers where Basil is beset by any number of complications, and all the guests keep coming to him with their problems and complaining about this, complaining about that. Basil, at one time, he's got them all in front of him, and he just snaps. And he's shouting at them like, all you people wanting to be waited on hand and foot, I'm trying to run a hotel. Like, that is what running a hotel is,
Exactly.
Basil. Exactly. And I feel like that's the same with us. We're like, oh, these students, they don't know anything. Like, well, yeah, that's what they've come for.
Yeah.
You need to help them through this.
Yeah.
Love it.
Do we
Joe,
remember
I'm going
when
to
we
ask
were
you for
18?
that episode. Yeah, I want to get that because I want to put it in the show notes.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Teachers.
Okay.
Remember,
Yeah.
we are Basil.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why, I'm so thankful to Travis Grandy and to my colleagues in the writing program at UMass Amherst, the ones who got it, the ones who really were, challenging me to be like, so if you're so miserable, just go back to engineering. What the hell did you do?
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't love your students, then what are you doing here?
What are you doing
You
here?
don't have to be
I
miserable.
don't see any
Yeah,
handcuffs
exactly.
on you.
Exactly.
Right, yeah,
Exactly.
And that's flippant, right? Like there are a lot of teachers who, you were just talking about this, Betsy, there's an exodus from the teaching profession.
Yep.
Right. So there's a lot of teachers who are in absolutely miserable conditions.
That's right.
So this is not intended to say to blame teachers and to say, oh, that's your problem. Suck it up.
No, there are so many good reasons that have nothing to do with whether you love your students or not. There are plenty of teachers who love their students and have to leave. It's because they also love their content and they can't really teach it in any way that matters to them, is meaningful to them or their students because of pressures and expectations from on high. A wonderful friend of mine who does a podcast called Those Who Can't Teach Anymore documents that, and in a beautiful, beautiful way. It's an award-winning podcast, really worth listening to. So yes, thank you, Hari. We're not saying the only thing that should keep you in teaching is loving your students, and if you don't love them, you should leave. If you love them and have to leave, it's not because you don't love them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
We're
hard
living
work.
through attacks on teaching on multiple fronts.
Right.
And fascism is inherently anti-teaching.
Yes.
AI is
Anti-learning.
inherently anti-learning.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
AI similarly is anti-human and anti-learning.
Yep.
And so teachers are in their classrooms. You are in the crux of a fight against learning by fascism and AI, and your students are feeling that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The wrap up here is takeaways. I call them axioms. So what I want to know is, Hari, if you've come up with a takeaway that you want to state for us, I want to hear that. I think an axiom that could be very useful, maybe broadly, and I would love to hear from teachers who have ideas about how this might apply in places other than writing. Write it in the comment. Like if you have a thought, it's the cat shit versus bullshit. How does that apply in learning generally and in your course? Because cat shit really is about the relationship with the thing that you're doing or writing. It doesn't have to be writing. It could be an assignment. It could be a content area. It could be finances, whatever. But the relationship with the thing is beautifully captured in that metaphor. It's either a cat shit relationship or a bullshit relationship, which I think we would define as process oriented. Like I'm going to suspend my assumption of knowledge or assumption of expertise. I'm going to suspend that. I'm not an expert, but I'm going to do what I can to, let's say, bullshit my way, but kind of work my way through what I'm thinking to some conclusion. Some people call this discovery writing, by the way, that I can then either revise and build back into my paper or continue to build on because I've actually gotten to this point. So that's my axiom. That's my takeaway. Cat shit versus bullshit.
I guess what I'm thinking about is, Hari, the way you turned the syllabus around and made the syllabus a manifestation of what you're hoping to teach these students. And I'm picturing that first rough session where they didn't want to be there, you didn't want to be there, nobody wanted to be there. But you can, as you did in the next year, the next time you taught it, you are in a better position as the teacher than anyone to establish a culture of the room and of the subject that you're teaching. And you should make an effort to do that. You've got to, even if you're required to teach it and it's not what you would have chosen to teach, you do have to teach it. So a lot of teaching is selling. Find a way to sell this. And maybe they'll buy it, maybe they won't, but they're a lot likelier to buy it if you're really, really trying to sell it to yourself and to them. It might not work. It might not work.
Yeah. I love that. I just was going to say that the way that Hari did it was, I think, is what you were kind of pulling out, what I would call form and function. Is that the appropriate use? Because it's like the function of the syllabus is to orient the students to what they're going to be learning. The form is what Hari and his friend Travis created to manifest, to embody the function, right? Your brochure was a combination of form and function, a beautiful design that combined the two. I think that's what you're getting at, Joe, right? You sell it by actually thinking about what it is you're trying to teach and making sure that you are embodying all of that all the time in your own approach to the teaching, rather than being disembodied, out of body. Like, okay, we are going to now talk about, the 5-paragraph essay and the structure, as opposed to, what do you want to say? What kind of structure is going to work? Let's figure that out.
Yeah.
Is that what you were meaning?
I think so. Like you took control of the narrative, I guess, of what you were doing.
Yes.
Yeah, by living through the brochure and through your approach, what the point of the class was. And I'm sure you were then successful in selling that to a lot of them. Maybe not all of them. You're never going to get everybody. Yeah. But if you all walk in the door thinking, this is just a huge waste of time, then there's 25 of them and one of you. So nobody managed to establish the narrative. But if you, as the most influential person in the room, do work on establishing the narrative, what a difference.
Yeah. Make it a story worth telling and a story worth being part of.
Exactly. And that is one of your major expertise areas. So what about you, Hari? Do you have a takeaway?
I think for me, the big takeaway from all this goes back to something you wrote in the newsletter post, Betsy, is curiosity. Let's get curious and let that curiosity drive you as a teacher. For starting out, like, why am I doing this in the first place? Ask the why questions and get curious about it.
About yourself.
About yourself.
Right.
And then ask the what if. What if I change it differently? They say I can't. What if I do it this way? What if I do it that way? What if? And have that curiosity just translate right through into being very upfront with the students. Hey, I'm curious to know, why are you taking this class? Hey, I'm curious to know, how do you want to challenge yourself in this class? Hey, are you curious to know what your peers thought of this class? Here's some feedback I got from your peers last semester, and I've changed this assignment based on that feedback. I'm now really curious to know how this assignment goes for you. Yeah. So really, I think curiosity is the superpower in teaching and in learning.
I totally agree. It's got to be authentic.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Well, you guys, thank you. This has been so interesting.
Thank you, Hari. What a great story.
Oh, thank you both. And thank you, Betsy, for starting this all off. Thank you for doing the whole Teaching Through Emotions podcast, the community, the newsletter. That particular article that you sent really, really struck a chord for me, and it reminded me why I'm doing this in the first place. So thank you.
Right on. And just to say, community, people out there, if you have takeaways from this episode, please write them in the comments. We'd like to hear what you pulled out, what you care about most. And if you like what you've heard, please review the podcast on the site that you get your podcast from, even just a 5-star thing. But words really help people find the podcast and listen to it for themselves. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming all the way through with us. And we love you. And Joe and Hari, I love you. And I really appreciate your time and thoughtfulness and kindness and caring.
You too, Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
TTE is a Podvision production, created and hosted by me, Betsy Burris, and co-hosted by Joe Johnson. Production and audience development support from Julian Androkaya and Andrea Koskaj. Crucial editing by Brad Wells. And the music, which makes me smile and dance every time I hear it, by Tom Burris of Jabbering Trout. Thanks one and all. If you like this episode, text it to a friend. And if you haven't already, sign up for my Substack, where you can become a paid subscriber and get all kinds of goodies, including exclusive podcast episodes that will change your life. That's teachingthroughemotions.com. Thank you for listening.
It's all true. It's all